Time for a stroll through maybe the most amazing gardens ever created. It's the gardens of Versailles, just outside Paris, full of geometric plantings, avenues of trees, spectacular fountains, and a little chaos. How did they come to be designed and built? Well, that's one of the questions posed by a new film directed and co-written by the great British actor Alan Rickman. It's called A Little Chaos, and Alan Rickman, Snape in Harry Potter if you prefer, is in the studio. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah, why this period? Why this story?
I think you'd have to ask Alison Deegan, who wrote the script originally, why. She's fascinated by it, and also it's a first screenplay for her, so she had, if you like, the will and the daring to mess about with it, because some of it's true, some of it isn't. Kate's character couldn't possibly have existed. There would never have been a woman landscape gardener. Matthias, who plays Lenôtre did exist. He did design the gardens of Versailles, but he would have been 70 at the time of the story, which might have made the love affair a little trickier. So we sliced 35 years off of his age to make that possible.
But you've imagined, or she's imagined, into the centre of the design of Versailles Gardens, a woman.
Yeah, and to design the fountain of an outdoor ballroom, and that actually is real. That exists in Versailles. It's called Le Salle de Bal, I think, and it is one of Louis's mad imaginings. Is an outdoor ballroom with a pink marble floor and a moat around it, so they had to step across the water, dance on the pink marble. People sat on the green kind of terrace seating around it. A fountain played on half of it, and the musicians were hidden in the trees. So the idea was it floated through the trees.
It's nice, isn't it? Because that's a fabulous fantasy, and in a way, the story of the film is a fabulous fantasy, isn't it? A woman having this much power at this time.
Yeah, and I think that's hopefully what makes it very modern. In a way, I hope what people get when they watch the film is that the period kind of doesn't disappear, because it's always a very strong backdrop, but that they think they're watching actually a perfectly modern story about a situation that still exists, that, you know, in certain areas of life, women are still decorative objects, still under-acknowledged in the workplace, and certainly for Kate's character as a single parent at one point in her life, life was a struggle. I
mean, we keep saying Kate, but Kate, of course, is Kate Winslet. She's who you were with in Sense and Sensibility all those years ago. She's spectacular still on screen. She's mesmerising, isn't she?
She's got the most unbelievable quality, and I think it's probably because she's not aware of it. You know, she's not watching herself. She's a workhorse as an actor. She does all the preparation you could wish for, but then she drops it when she's with another actor. She just listens. She doesn't really care what she looks like. She's very happy getting muddy and being thrown in water.
Which you require. Yes, that's right. Constantly. Well, of course, in all her plans to build this spectacular sort of fountain-based ballroom, she has a few villains who are out to get her, doesn't she?
Yeah. Well, she's disturbing things, and not least for Lenôtre's wife. They're not in the most. Well, I suppose it'd be called a loveless marriage, but of course it keeps Madame Lenôtre in a position of authority within the court, and if that's going to be threatened by a burgeoning love affair, then action has to be taken.
Alan Rickman's here. The court is delicious in this. It's this sense of this incestuous building, which I get a sense, 80 people or 100 people, they're all the noblemen of the court. They kind of live on each other's laps, don't they?
They're all desperate to get a crumb of a favour thrown at them by Louis. And so, as you and I were saying earlier, he used to have what was called his big sleep and his little sleep. Big sleep, 80 people had to stand there through the night watching him sleep, and at 2 o'clock in the morning he'd wake up, send 60 of them away. 20 of them stood there hanging around until the morning. They all used to just stand there in a silent lump watching him eat his dinner, hoping that one little question might be thrown at them. I'm sure there's a few leaders of the world today who would like to put that back into operation, or there's a version of it at work for them now. But yes, divide and rule, it's called. If you've got all the people who might be plotting against you, keep them silent and upright while you're asleep.
There's a lovely line in the film where the members of the court are described as mice in a trap. But in a sense, Louis is a mouse in a trap too, isn't he?
A friend of mine who watched the film, and there's a scene in it with a group of women who talk together about things that they're not allowed to talk about in the presence of Louis. But she saw the film and she said, because the film ends with a dance sequence in the finished fountain, and I hadn't really thought about it before, she said, Louis standing in the middle of that dance is so lonely. And so, yes, his birth gives him this position. His birth and history makes him try to uphold it, but then of course you're stuck with it once you've got it, and it is. He used to sleep alone. You know, whatever mistress was with him would be sent back to her bedroom, and when he went to sleep, he was alone. When he woke up, he was alone. And
he can't, he's got all this power. He was the longest lasting monarch I think Europe's ever had. But despite all that power, he can't marry who he wants to marry. He can't even have a few minutes off. There's a delicious scene in the film where finally he gets a time when he's mistaken for a commoner, essentially. And it's the most delicious moment of relief for him.
Yeah, he goes to a tiny little garden and takes his wig off so that he can breathe for a minute.
Yeah. Alan Rickman's here. He's talking about A Little Chaos, which opens in Sydney cinemas March 26. Can we talk about the career in a broader way? I suppose I particularly want to ask you about your skill with languages. One of the things that in all the various movies people talk about is your ability to pick the right emphases of the words, to put the stress on things, to bring a richness to the language. Is that RADA? Is it RSC? Were you born with it? Where does it come from?
Well, thank you, if that's what happens. I'm not really aware of anything except having me as a human being, whatever that is, whatever collection of experiences or, travels or whatever I've read or whatever's the makeup of me is what I've got at my disposal when I read a script or go into a rehearsal room. So, and the same is true of Kate, what you're talking about, what she's got. Hopefully every actor has something different to offer. I love language. I love and depend on the work of the writer completely. It's always good writing that tells you what to do.
You're not afraid of a pause before a word, a heavy emphasis on one word, a lightness with the next?
No, because I think silence is an unbelievably useful tool in your armory. If the audience is thinking with you, then the silence is inhabited and it's rich and it's part of the texture of the whole event.
No, he says, pausing, then hitting the word tool quite hard. Fantastic. Alan Rickman is here. I have to ask you about Harry Potter. In some ways, it's what stopped you making another film. I think it's 18 years since you directed your last film. Presumably that's because of 10 years of Potter.
Absolutely, because to direct a film, you've got to have a year or a year and a half, or in this case, longer, at your disposal to raise the money, get into pre-production, shoot the film. That's the shortest bit. And then go into the editing process and then distribution and publicity. So I haven't had, even though I was directing other things and appearing on stage in other things and making other movies, I didn't have a clear year and a half. Once I'd said yes to doing Harry Potter, and when I said yes, there were only 3 of them written. I didn't know that it was going to be in the 4th, 5th, 6th. And
are you going to the bookstore on the release of the 4th, 5th and 6th books to find out if Snape is in there?
Well, it was a bit like that, actually. Yeah, but, my other half, she reads a lot quicker than I do, so she was able to whip through and say, yep, you're in it. Yep, you're still there at the end.
With thrill or with, oh, gosh, this is going on and on?
No. I mean, because I was playing one of the characters that's one of the more complicated characters with a real narrative. And so it was very important how he finished.
He deepens, doesn't he, as it goes along? The character changes quite a lot. That must be a thrilling thing to happen, actually.
It was great to present one thing and then to find out that he's absolutely the opposite. Yeah,
a lovely review of Snape, in particular, your performance. Snape's character, a nurturing heart that Snape masks with masks with a sneer. It's a nice description, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, nurturing heart, I like.
Uh-huh. He has a sneer early on, though.
Well, he's certainly cold. Yeah, but it's because of what he's hiding.
Yeah, yeah. How else do you see his character, and how do you see it as changing through the books?
Well, I'm always nervous of talking about it in case I don't know. You'd have to tell me in case there's some child listening to this program who's only on book 3.
Yes, for God's sake, don't tell them. Yeah, exactly. A spoiler alert from Alan Rickman himself. You've worked with amazing directors over the years. Ong Lee comes to mind, I suppose, instantly from Sense and Sensibility. But I wonder if when you come to be the director, as you did 18 years ago, you have again today, are there things that you learn as an actor working with a director that you then bring to the task of being a director yourself?
I guess absolutely and inevitably, really. And you find yourself watching great people like Ang or Neil Jordan or Mike Newell or Alfonso Cuarón or whoever it is that one's, it is a pleasure to work with them because what they all bring is who they are as people. They're not just a collection of skills as a director. And you watch them as a person on the set, and that's fallible and has to get up in the morning and be tired. But you watch them organise themselves and organise their wishes, and also stand there and think. That's a relief to watch. To think they don't always know exactly what's going to happen.
Some are very actor-based, and the actors are allowed to form their own view about things. Others are quite, I think, dictatorial. Which sort are you?
You probably have to ask the people I've worked with. I
mean, Kate Winslet. Could you get Kate Winslet on
the phone? She'd probably swear too much. I think because I'm an actor too, I hope I ask them what they think. I hope it's a marketplace of ideas. I hope ultimately it'll be me who says yes or no, because that's what I respect in a director. I'll throw ideas at a director from an actor's point of view, but if the director says no, then I'll never mention it again.
You want guidance in the end. You want that eye upon you.
You want to throw options, and then you want somebody to make a choice. Yeah.
You've been to Australia once before to act in, I think it was Quigley, wasn't it? It was the Tom Selleck film. What was that like? And going out to the desert?
Oh, fantastic! I mean, I'll never ever forget being in Alice Springs. Not just the making of the movie, but we became such a tight band of friends and drunks, frankly, of an evening.
When in Rome.
Yes. The Casa Nostra, I hope it's still there now, the pizza house in the middle of Alice Springs.
Oh, is that right? I don't know. But it must be amazing. It was pretty amazing for Australian eyes to see the desert, but for English eyes, it must be a spectacular experience.
Magical and unforgettable, and I don't know how else to explain it except to say that you're somewhere that's been there forever, and that you're kind of at the soul of the planet. It's no accident that there's a lineup of minivans all staring at Ayers Rock, but somehow the minivans disappear, and all you're watching is that thing and the colours changing.
We've all thought that thought, but we haven't expressed it in your beautiful voice. Alan Rickman, congratulations on the film, and thank you very much for coming and visiting us.
Thanks so much.
There's Alan Rickman taking us on a stroll through the Garden of Versailles. In the film, he plays the Sun King, Louis XIV, alongside Kate Winslet as Sabine de Barry, the woman they've created as someone who helped fashion the Gardens of Versailles. It opens A Little Chaos in Sydney on March 26.